Lots of us feel stuck. People tell us we can't seem to stop doing what we wish we weren't doing. We don't like yelling at our children, but we can't seem to help it. We don't like gossiping about our bosses, but we can't wait to do it again. We don't like using pornography, but we find we can't stop. We can't seem to stop bickering. We just keep going on and on. We realize we are behaving poorly, but we don't see a way to change. As we will explain, many of us try to change our behavior directly, but find we can't. But we have found that we can let our hearts underlying our behavior change, and that changes how we think and feel and act. Perhaps letting your heart change will work for you and your loved ones as it has for us. But first, let us explain more about the ideas you will be exploring after you register. When we feel stuck, we may try to make ourselves behave differently by force of will. People say, we try to control what we do. We resolve to be more patient with our children, but then we are enraged by their behavior. We commit to stop grumbling to our colleagues about our boss and then can't wait to gossip about his next stupidity. We want to think better about our spouse, but we can't make ourselves do it. We silently find ourselves entertaining sarcastic thoughts about our spouse, though we wear a mask of politeness in our spouse's presence, resenting having to wear it. We may try to fake it until we make it, smiling when we want to scream. But we keep feeling fake, just pretending that we aren't stuck and aren't trapped by roadblocks to genuine change. But if trying to control ourselves doesn't work, what could? We may stop trying to control ourselves and look for someone wiser than us to control us. We may go into rehab where we are required to change. But then we are told by people who are stuck, as soon as we get out of the facility, we find we are still lost, unable to act for ourselves, unhealthily dependent on those who have been helping us. Like other addicts report, we can feel addicted, even to our addiction recovery group. The bottom line is, we still feel stuck and helpless. So, we may try turning our life over to a therapist and follow prescribed coping routines. People tell us that therapy is largely about following routines to cope with the pressures, forces, quirks, and habits of ourselves and others around us. We still feel acted upon by these thwarting forces, which are ever present to us in never-ending and inescapable ways. We feel stuck, unable to act until the situation we are in changes. We yearn for another option, a way to act in our situation as free moral agents, sensing what we should do and doing it. At some point, we may realize that making genuine changes in our behavior isn't about exercising willpower or relinquishing it. It's about letting our hearts underlying our behavior change. We have to stop virtually giving up, insisting that we and those around us are keeping us stuck. It is that simple. When our hearts are right, we see possibilities for doing good readily available to us. We discover we really can get off the couch and find a job, because we quit insisting that doing so is nearly impossible, given our erratic temperament. We spend time with our troubled son when we quit insisting that it never does any good given his inevitable belligerency. We stop patting ourselves on the back for heroically doing well in nearly impossible situations. We forget ourselves and do what needs doing. Seeing our hearts as the reason for our being stuck may sound ominous and guilt-producing, but actually it is good news. The good news is that if my heart is the source of my troubles, then by letting my heart change, no longer justifying my being stuck, I can change and act according to my moral sensibility. I don't have to insist that you or my situation change before I can. I can see in each moment what I feel I should do and do it, because now I see my blaming of others and myself is actually an excuse for not doing what I see as right. I have given up the very attitudes, thoughts, and feelings that create my stuckness. Think of the last time you felt stuck, unable to do what you felt you should. We call this being hard-hearted. Only when we are hard-hearted do we blame others or ourselves for our being stuck. We see ourselves and others as means to justify our stuckness, not as inspiring sources for what we believe we ought to do next. Alternatively, think about the last time you moved forward, solved a problem, reconciled with a sibling, resolved a misunderstanding, yelled at someone to get their attention, and let them firmly know that they were harming themselves and others. We call those times being soft-hearted, drawing from all the possibilities around us, being self-forgetful, seeing what we should do and doing it, even pondering what to do and then doing it. When we are hard-hearted, we act as thwarted moral agents. In other words, we believe we can't do what we feel we should do. When we drop our hardness of heart, we soft-heartedly act as true moral agents. In other words, we do what we feel we should do. Soft-hearted, you're outside a box, a full, free human being. Hard-hearted, you're trapped in a box, blind to how we have created the box, a stifled caricature of a human being. How can we move from hard-hearted stuckness to soft-hearted freedom? When we feel stuck, we rationalize our failing behavior as the only thing we can do. But when we are rationalizing, we can't see that we are rationalizing. So others can't simply tell us we are keeping ourselves stuck, hoping we will recognize it while we are doing it and stop it. We have to let our hearts soften and recognize that we have been hard-hearted. How can we do that? Often we need to read about hard and soft-heartedness like you are doing now. Sometimes our willingness to ask certain questions can be our own invitations to change. Examples are: question number 1. Of all the things I could do in a situation, what do I believe is right to do? Another question: if I were to give my heart to this person in this moment, what would occur to me to do? And finally, what moral sensibility am I resisting in order to take my excuses seriously? Sometimes a friend with our best interest at heart can help us soften our hearts and see specific examples of our hard or soft heart. Such a friend or counselor could help us see what we feel we should do, or help us see our excuses for not being able to do it, and even help us see something else that might enable us to do what we feel we should do. We can also recognize others' hardness and softness of heart when we watch a quality movie or read a quality story or novel. We can see characters locked down doing something without sensing the possibilities around them for doing something better. That is ridiculous. Rather funny, actually. And we can see characters opening up to a situation and doing something better than expected. That is heartwarming. Once we liken to ourselves scenes of others hardening and softening, we can start looking back and seeing ourselves as having hardened or softened our heart in similar situations. We can start by viewing and recounting every day cases of feeling stuck and yet coming out of it. And we can move on to seeing others and ourselves in more difficult situations of feeling stuck and still getting out of it. We can do this in our jobs, our marriage, even in our depression. To cease being stuck, we need to be open to new possibilities. That's a simple idea, but to be open to new possibilities, we need to stop ignoring possibilities and justifying our being stuck. That is a more complex idea. It requires us to recognize and remember and view and liken to ourselves stories of ceasing to justify being stuck. Our starting point for change is thus confessing that we have been missing what we could have been doing. We have missed the mark, which is the original Greek meaning for sin. There is nothing more likely to help you see the condition of people's hearts, especially your own, than by viewing and reflecting on stories of the heart. As you do so, your heart may soften and solutions to your problems will begin to occur to you that you had never before thought possible. You will realize for yourself that the heart of change is a change of heart.